This next lesson is square roots and order of operations. The definition of a square root is the square root of a number is one of two identical factors of the number. Since 5 times 5 is 25, the square root of 25 is 5. And this is how we write the square root. With that strange symbol here, that's the square root of 25 is 5. So for this one, number 1, we want to find the square root of 36. So I want to think of two numbers that multiply together to get 36 that are the same number. And the answer is 6. So you only write down the 6. The square root of 1 is 1 because 1 times 1 is 1. The square root of 121 is 11 times 11. So this 11 times 11 is 121. So the square root of 121 is 11. The square root of 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. Now we're going to incorporate that into order of operations. The first thing you're going to do for order of operations in an expression is the parentheses. You work from the inmost to the outmost parentheses. Then we evaluate any exponents or square roots. Multiply or divide from left to right. That's really important, left to right, because multiplication and division are like on an equal playing field. So the way that we decide what to do first is like you're reading a sentence from left to right. And the same way with addition and subtraction, in order from left to right. Now we're going to simplify these expressions using order of operations. So we're going to actually evaluate them and get a number for the answer. So for number 5 here, we have 5 squared times 4 divided by 2. Okay, so there are no parentheses, so the next thing down is exponents. So 5 squared is 25 times 4 divided by 2. Okay, then we multiply or divide in order from left to right. We only have multiplication and division, but we got to go left to right. So 25 times 4 is 100. And then the last but not least, our only operation left is division. So 100 divided by 2 is 50. Now let's do the next one. So we're going to perform the operations in parentheses. So 7 minus 3 is 4. And then I'm only doing one operation at a time because I kind of want to give myself time to think. Then evaluate any expressions with exponents. So 4 squared is 16. Then multiply or divide in order from left to right. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then add or subtract. So in this case, I only have one addition, so the answer would be 14. Next. Ooh, now let's look at this thing. All right. So there are no parentheses, okay? So we're going to look at exponents or square roots. So we're going to evaluate the square root. So 36, the square root of it is 6. And then I'm just going to write it. Now this fraction bar actually acts like it's actually a division sign, but it also separates the expressions. So you're going to do everything in the top, or the numerator, then everything in the bottom, and then divide them. So 6 take away 1 is 5, and 7 take away 2 is 5, and we're going to divide them. Or I could write it as 5 over 5, because that's really what it looks like in the problem, and that's just the number 1. Now, number 8 is putting in absolute values, and we have to recall from what the heck was an absolute value. It's just the distance between the number and 0, and it's always the number just without the sign in front. So the first, and absolute values actually act like parentheses. So we're going to get 3 to the second minus, well, 5 minus 2 is 3. And the absolute value of 3 is just 3. So we have 3 squared, take away 3. Well, 3 squared is 9 because I had to do my exponents next. I'm always checking my little list off. And 9 take away 3 is 6. Well, how do you remember them? Well, a lot of times they use mnemonics. I use please for parentheses, excuse for exponents, my dear, Aunt Sally. It's not that great, and notice how I wrote my dear and Aunt Sally on the same lines because it's left to right for both of these, and that's super hard to remember sometimes, but you gotta, like multiplication and division, they're like, we are the same idea. So nobody goes ahead of anybody else. So they decide who goes first by doing left to right. Okay, just a couple more examples. Hang in there. So here is another one of those fraction bar things. So first we're going to do the absolute value of negative 75, which is 75, because absolute value is like kind of like a parentheses that kind of gloms into that group. And then we're going to do what's on the top, do what's on the bottom, and divide. So we have 80 divided by 5 is 16. Ta-da! Okay, last but not least, number 10, I had to throw in some decimals here because you know me, I can't control myself. So what we're going to do is parentheses, we're going to add those up. So recall when you have a decimal and you add it up, you line up your decimal points, add those up, you'll get 4.5. Okay, there we go. Now we have a division and a multiplication, and they're all on the same playing field here. So they decide what to do by going left to right. So here we go. We got to do that division first because he's on the left. He's the first one we see. So over on the side, I'm going to do this division because I love it so much. I do really like it. 5 is a whole number. We're really grateful for that because then we can just bring that decimal point right on up. 5 does not go into 4, but it goes into 45 9 times. Da-da! So 0.9 is this thing right here. And then we have to multiply it by 2.2. And I really like this problem because it reviews all your decimal operations. Addition, kind of subtraction, no subtraction, but you get the idea. Division and multiplication. So 2.2 times 0.9, 18, carry the 1, 19. Ooh, I have two numbers after the decimal point here to the right of it. Move it to the left 2 places. So the result is 1.98. And does that work? Well, 0.9 is near number 1. And 2.2 is about 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. Yeah, my estimate looks good. Everything's looking great. Now you can do the order of operations, my math lab assignment. And again, if you have any questions, please ask your instructors. Just right away, just do it. That's what they're there for.